Okay, so I'm back. I went away on I went on a sheep hunt to help a guy get his Dell sheep in a little northwestern chunk of British Columbia that's surrounded by the Yukon, Alaska. It was really, really remote. And I don't know how much weight I lost, but it was quite the grunt. I think it was about 110 or 12 kilometers on foot we did in 8 days. So anyway, I got probably, I don't know, there is literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Sasquatch encounter stories emailed to me in my inbox in the email address tellmystoryhowtohunt.com. And obviously I haven't been here to do anything with it, but I'm going to try to do a little bit right now. And for a little bit of a side note, you're not going to believe this one, but while we were in that cabin, we found an old outfitter cabin in the middle of nowhere, stayed in it one night, and so right at dark, right at gloomy light, hit the sleeping bag. No, I didn't have a gun, and the other guy had a rifle. I had a pile of video camera equipment. The frickin' cabin starts shaking, for real. The whole cabin's like, it was almost like something nudged it or shook it. It was just a quick little thing. 100% felt it, and I get up in my underwear, grab the rifle, wake up, buddy. He didn't feel anything. He's asleep. And I'm looking out the window, and I'll admit it, I was like, please don't show me something 8 feet tall walking by the stupid window. And nothing did. And then I kicked open the front door in my underwear with this rifle, thinking maybe there's a big brown bear out there, grizzly bear, or whatever. There's absolutely nothing. Whatever, chalk it up. And the only thing holding the door closed is a piece of string that you looped onto this nail head. But whatever. So anyway, it was kind of weird for me. I wasn't alarmed. I didn't feel panicked or freaked out or anything. It's just kind of weird to feel the whole freaking cabin get nudged, or whatever it was, shook. And then, of course, you're the only one that felt it, and you're telling your partner, he's looking at you like you're a ding-dong. Whatever, chalk it up. Normally when it's a brown bear, grizzly bear, any bear, you can hear him breathing. You can see it on my other videos. I've had the bear on the porch. You can see it in the video. You can hear him a mile away. And there wasn't any bear breath. Possibly was it an earthquake? I don't know, maybe. But we carried on. And then I think it was 3 days later, we went another 7 or 8 kilometers farther into another spot, and then camped out and came back a couple nights later. And on the way out, we stay in the same frickin' cabin, and right at the exact same time at night, we climb into the sleeping bags, and thank God Buddy was awake for this. The whole frickin' cabin starts shaking. Literally, the entire cabin is shaking, probably about 5 times worse than the first time it was out of the night when I was the only one awake feeling it. And I'm like, grab the gun, man, holy shit, you know? But the weirdest thing, you couldn't feel anything or hear anything grabbing the cabin itself. There wasn't any breathing outside. Is what it is. I don't know what the hell it was, but it happened, and thank God it was witnessed for my partner, and chalk up as another one of those goofy things. I'm in a cabin twice, and twice the frickin' thing shakes the exact same time in the evening. Whatever. But anyway, holy crap, do I got background noise here today. I'm actually on the west coast in full-on Blacktail zone, not too far from Gibson's, BC. And there's float planes flying by like crazy. There's a dog barking in the distance, so we're going to have to put up with it. No big deal. So, again, you know, I've told people in the past, if you want to hear some of these stories from honest people, real accounts of encounters of these damn things in the woods, all you have to do is look somebody in the eye, don't laugh at them, don't talk about it with a goofy tone, and speak straight up with respect, and you're going to get stories back. So as another quick example of how I bump into frickin' stories all the time, I just got the balls in me to ask strangers if they've ever heard of an encounter or have knowledge on these things, and you wouldn't believe how common it is. So as an example, the guy I'm hunting with, he's from Vancouver Island. He's been running hunting dogs forever, has a whole bunch of them. He's very good at it. He's a very well-experienced, long-time hunter. And he was hunting in the interior BC, close to where Dr. John Bendernagel was doing a study on these things. And they were way up in huge, huge, steep bluffs in the snow and the ice. And deer hunting. So he was with another guy. They split up from the third guy, and they had handheld radios. And he told me flat out that they found what they thought this was in the snow at first was bear tracks. But when they looked closer, it turned out it was a human bear footprint, somewhat more human, 5 toes, human foot shape, but not quite human. And he said it probably about a size 6 foot. And it was going straight uphill in these icy bluffs where they couldn't even go. And these things went up in that snow in that direction, super fresh, freaked him out. And within minutes, their third partner that was away on the opposite side of the slope, opposite end of the slope, radioed them, said, hey, where are you guys? Told them where they were. And he said he's looking at something real weird. in the snow, and they said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he said, "I'm looking at a print that's like looks. I thought it was a bear." He said it wasn't a bear, and it was very human-like. And the two fellows originally who saw the size 6 print said, "Yeah, we just found a print, same thing in the snow here. Is about a size 6." And he goes, "No, my boot's size 13, and this thing dwarfs the shit out of my foot, and I am getting the hell out of here. I'll see you at the truck." And then they all got freaked out and they left. But there you go. Just last week, I go hunting with a guy, randomly bring up the topic, and I get one more first-hand account story shared with me, right? And then he also knew an old guy who worked on a lake close to the lake. I forget the name of the lake. It was around the same area near Comox Lake, and he had either a gold claim or something way at the back end of it, boat access only. And he told him directly about a time he was on shore walking up a creek bed. It's funny how so many people see these, bumping these things on creek beds and riverbeds is stupid. But he was walking along the creek bed, pissing rain, and he saw this guy standing in the middle of the creek bed, and he went, "Hey, you all right?" And he said the thing stopped dead, froze, looked at him, and stared at him for 10 seconds, then turned around and jumped up the bank and took off. And he's like, "Well, that's kind of weird." And then he went up to where this guy was standing and realized that the guy was actually full-on gray from head to toe. Figured his gray hair from head to toe. And he had to reach up high like this with his hand and was still this much shy of the maple leaf branch that hung down and touched this dude in the head when he was looking at it. So that put this thing at about 3.5 to 4 feet tall, taller than the 6-foot man. And he said the dude also took one big step up onto the bank where he had to find his way down to climb up over his hands, and he's on top of the bank. So there's another one. There's 2 accounts from somebody who I just randomly asked. Then to top it off, we use the inReach to text an expediter who's actually the daughter of one of the very first outfitters in the Yukon Territory, and she picked us up and was expediting us back to Whitehorse for 3 hours. And we're all bullshitting, talking about stuff, and I obviously ran the question bar. I go, "Hey, ever hear any Sasquatch stories around here?" And she got a kind of a comical look on her face and started laughing, as lots of people will, think it's funny. And then when she saw I was dead serious, she got very inquisitive, and I shared a few facts with her. And then she's, of course, another person. Like I tell you guys, if you ask around people who are in the outdoors that make a living or live in rural places, if you ask people honestly and sincerely if they have heard anything, I'll bet you 7 times out of 10 you're going to get an answer. And that is all there is to it, and that's how common this topic is. So I asked her, and she said, "Well, actually, one of our guides recently told us of having experience with one of these things down in Haines while they're fishing. Haines, Alaska. And that's not too far away from where I just was. But there you go. So there's another one. I mean, there's 2 people out of 2 people that I had seen in the Yukon for the past week, and both people had encounter stories of these beings. See what I mean? And that's just the way it goes. So if you are curious about these beings, you do want to hear stories on your own, all you got to do is ask people who work rurally, who work in the middle of nowhere, and just ask them. And you're going to hear stories. It's all there is to it. All right, so moving along, I quickly grabbed a couple of the encounter stories that were shared in the email. And I got one right here, and I'll see if I can read this smoothly where I am. Hopefully I can. And again, this was emailed to me in one huge frickin' long paragraph with about 500 words, so it makes it very difficult to read. So if I sound a little awkward, you know why. And I just haven't had time to go through the email and make it easier for me to read publicly, but here we go. Okay, hi Steve, love your stories and your lifestyle. My name is blank blank and I live in Washington. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Sorry if I have too many details. This picture is the closest I found to what I saw at age 16 in 1982 while elk hunting in Washington State. On the banks of the Columbia River, at least 10 miles below any trees, all sagebrush and rimrock. It was at the head of the Bryant Canyon. It is covered with wind machines now, but I'll never forget that day as long as I live. I was with 2 other teens while their fathers were hiking the canyon towards us, hoping to drive elk our way. We all had rifles, a 7mm mag, a .308, and a .30-06. We watched it walk the bottom of the steep canyon from over a mile away to within 100 yards of us, maybe 7 or 8 minutes long. Could you imagine that? Having something over a mile away and watching it walk to you up to 100 yards, and imagine having a video camera for that shit. Holy crap. Unfortunately, it didn't, but no big deal. It had the same blonde color, too long of arms and too short of legs, huge dinner plate hands, and hair all over it. And hair all over, as in the same as, and hair all over the same as this pic. We put scopes on it and we're scared shitless. It was not an elk, it was not a dude. We were getting panicked as it came closer and closer and got inside 100 yards. We all stood and put our rifles on it. It was about 200 feet lower in elevation than us at that point, and when it saw us, it froze up in a kind of a holy shit posture for about 2 seconds. Then it turned 90 degrees and went straight at the side of the canyon. It wasn't really running, but it was definitely hauling ass. Never saw it again, but did find some tracks where it crossed the road into the other canyon. Hunter orange was not required in 1982, but I never saw another hunter that wasn't wearing at least a red plaid shirt or an orange hat. Anyone walking through this area in a hair suit on the general elk opener would be a suicidal dumbass. I did not take this picture, but want to share it with you. It's real and exactly what I saw in the bright sunshine on October 30th, 1982. That son of a bitch had a six-pack. Zoom in. I believe it was taken in the North Cascades in the late 80s. And of course, our own father said we must have been smoking some funny stuff. You know what? It's kind of funny when people always say that with an encounter and they'll say, oh, were you doing any drugs? We must have been smoking some of the wacky tobacco. Okay, well, guess what, you guys? All you people that can't take and accept this topic. If it was drugs that made over 10,000 people alone recorded encounters, if it was drugs that made you see an 8 to 9 foot tall, hairy, upright creature, then every single person that went in for an operation and went under anesthetics or whatever, painkillers, would be seeing 8 to 9 foot hairy people in the hospital room. People at raves would be chronically talking about the 8 foot tall, high, hairy dudes you see when you get to the right high. That doesn't happen. People that do drugs do not report seeing hairy, upright beings nonstop. It just doesn't frickin' happen. And if it was chronic, upright, hairy beings that marijuana caused you to see, they'd probably use them in advertisements as a plateau of being stoned level. Which, no, it always doesn't happen because drugs don't make you think you see 8 to 9 foot tall hairy beings only while you're in the forest. Okay, you guys? So you could probably drop the, they were probably smoking wacky tobacco thing or doing drugs thing, because it just doesn't fit. There's people doing drugs in every single major city, in every single frickin' rave place and nightclub, and there's people on drugs in every single hospital, and there isn't one recorded sighting of an 8 to 9 foot tall being in these places because of the drugs they're doing. Get your heads out of your asses. Right? There's my rant. Anyway, carrying on. I've also been going salmon fishing on Vancouver Island since the 1980s with my parents, Telegraph Cove. In 1998, I saw a Sasquatch run down and dive into the water from the westernmost point of West Craycroft Island, wherever that is, probably on the inside, meaning inside of Vancouver Island. It surfaced one time and I never saw it again. The current can rip through there at times, so I don't know if it was catching the current to travel or just getting out of sight. When it did surface the one time, it reminded me of a sea lion taking a breath, and I was locked onto it with binos by then and never saw it again. Had I not seen it run into the water, I would have not noticed that it wasn't a sea lion. I was just there 3 weeks ago. Fishing was good and I didn't see any Sasquatches, so it was a good trip. Thanks for all you do. Love it when you crush... Thanks for all you do. Love it when you crush the douchebags. F them. Feel free to use either story, but please no names. Thanks. No problem, buddy. And so there you go. There's one of over 400 counter stories emailed into me from, again, a good, honest, hardworking person whose testimony is obviously can be taken as truth. And I wouldn't question the person for a second. And here's you can see the picture right here. The picture included his email. And it is what it is. You know what? It's one of literally frickin' thousands and thousands of stories, and it's one of literally thousands of credible witnesses that report bumping into these beings which are running around the forested areas of North America and the world around us today. And there's just no getting out of it. There's no way of getting out of it. And they're not going away. No matter how hard you want to laugh at the topic, no matter how much it makes you angry, it's just not going to go away. And as well, I want to touch on the angry and the insulting part, you know, commonly, especially on my channel as well. Not so much like even in the beginning when I first cracked open this topic. One thing that you people should understand is when people lash out and call you names and insult you when it comes to this topic, it's only the reason because it scares them. And I'm not saying that to be insulting, it's just fact. When people get scared or frustrated, it turns into anger. It's actually a trigger for the human emotion of anger. That's what people do. And they've also done studies on grizzly bears, and grizzly bears do the same thing. When a grizzly gets frustrated, it turns into rage and it has a fit. And that's what these people are doing. So when the people who have brains that can't open up and wrap around this topic, when they hear people like me or anybody else talking about this topic like it is, it can infuriate them and cause them to lash out and trigger them to be insulting. And the only reason why is because it scares the crap out of them. They can't deal with it. And that's why they are lashing out and insulting people. So yes, I am understanding about that. But then there's the little devil on this side of me that loves to bait the douchebags and make them lash out so I can delete them. I just can't help it. It's kind of fun. Whatever. Another fella emailed me from Vancouver Island. I knew who his dad was. Met him a few times. The name is very familiar. We never met, but I know who he is. And he emailed me recently and told me of a place near Port Renfrew where he was deer hunting. And he took note in one road they found a whole pile of immature alder trees that were pulled straight up of an old deactivated logging road, roots and all, pulled out of the ground and just thrown on the road. And he said it was very, very alarming to see that. Obviously the power it took to do that was incredible. And it was a deactivated road with no motorized vehicles. And he also knew of somebody else who had seen an 8-foot tall plus black hairy upright being ripping across an area adjacent to where these alders had been pulled out of the road. And he said that it was very unnerving, and he just up and left and said, "I'm getting the hell out of here." And he also found a huge human-like imprint in the ground, and he submitted a photograph to me, and here it is here. And I found footprints in the woods too, and it just sucks. It's so hard to photograph them and then share them online, because obviously when you see the print in the ground firsthand, all the detail stands out real good, and you can look back and forth to see the shadows. But when you use a camera, there's no angles, there's no shadows, and it kind of sucks. But here's the photograph anyway. And I know who this guy is, and he's a credible outdoorsman, big time, full-time Vancouver Island born and raised individual, and without a doubt somebody whose character you can take as credible. And this is what he saw, that's what he saw. I wouldn't question it for a second. But anyways, there you go. And you know, there's plenty of other channels online that are tackling this topic. They're probably using it as an opportunity to maybe possibly financially benefit themselves in the ways of selling t-shirts and shit. You know, I had some guy, I won't even say their name, somebody who has a channel called something or other Bigfoot. They private messaged me and said, "Hey man, you're getting a big following. You could make money here in t-shirts." You know, just as I said to a lot of you earlier, you know, I've had a couple people have slipped in some comments I caught along the way saying, "Oh yeah, you're just trying to make money." I'm like, really? Really? Telling Sasquatch stories on YouTube is making me tons of money. I mean, check out my Rolex. You see my Rolex I got? You gotta see the dents in the pickup truck I'm driving, the window kicked out of the back of it. I'm far from being rich and far from making piles of money out telling these crazy stories. It's just not gonna happen. And don't forget, take note, the only reason I'm sharing these stories is because of the demand from all of you viewers. Hundreds of you have bugged me for years to crack and spill my Sasquatch stories if I had any, and that's the only reason I did it. As well, out of respect for my grandfather, which you can see my previous videos on his encounter that he shared with me. So, but there you go. Obviously, I'm talking a little fast. I'm shy in time as usual. I just got back from being very, very remote in the north. And being away puts me behind in everything. And I have to get geared up and ready to go and take off again this Friday for a week or two in remote north central BC. And as well, I'm going to be back in that same area where I found about 15 trees snapped off 9 feet up. And I found this weird stick structure and a bunch of other Sasquatch sign there. And no, I'm not going to be looking for Sasquatch when I go hunting. I don't need to. I don't want to. I don't need that grief. But Unfortunately, I do know for a fact I'm going to be going to the same area where some of these things are hanging out probably again right now. Whatever. Maybe I'll see something. Maybe I won't. But that's about that for the Sasquatch reporting right now. And when I get back once again, I will crack open the email and I'll try to drill out a handful more of these great encounters that people have messaged to me and are trusting me to reel out a story to all you guys. Because obviously I'm not scared of the human sheeple herd. I'm actually not scared of any of you. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. It is what it is. It's time. It's just time that these were accepted. It's fact. Because they are. And again, it's not about footprints and tree breaks and pounding your rocks and wood on trees. That's an absolute waste of time. The mystery's been solved. We know what's leaving the footprints. We know what's making the sounds and the screams in the night. The big number one mystery every single human being should be looking into is demanding why the people that do know of these things are preventing the public from having the knowledge about these beings. That's the mystery. The footprints aren't a mystery. The sightings aren't a mystery. The handprints, the wood getting slapped on trees, it's not a mystery. There's no mystery there. What's doing it is these 8 to 9 foot tall, hair-covered, human-like beings. That's what's doing it. And that mystery, again, is solved. And it's just time that whoever it is blocking the main population from the knowledge on these beings. It's time we found out why. That's the mystery, and that's what everybody should be looking at demanding. Find out why the public isn't being filled in and informed about these beings. Anyway, there you go. More stories, and I'll be back with some more later on.